Yeah, let me refresh. Oh, we're live. Okay, of course. Like whenever I'm like least prepared. Okay, amazing. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Oh, we can chat about the Japan thing later, if it's private. But okay, so I want to start with like, I want to tell people a little bit more about your background. So you started your career in marketing in Twilio, and then you have worked on iconic product like Parse, Facebook, GitLab, GitHub, before you started your own fund.
Mhm.
Maybe we can start with like, what were some core lessons that you've learned early on in your career, kind of shape you into who you are today?
Yeah. Oh God. I think that one I learned because startups move so quickly, um, done is better than perfect was always one that sticks out in my head. Uh, and something at Twilio that we kind of was our mantra. We had stickers, which I won't say the actual word because I'll try to behave a little bit, but it was F it, ship it. So basically, like, just get it out there, get customers using it, we'll get feedback. And so I think for me, I always want to be perfect before I put things out there. And I had to get over that very early in my career.
For sure.
Um, and I always get the question like, why did you hop after 2 years at every company? They were great companies, and I was like, well, I wanted to move up. I wanted bigger salaries. I wanted bigger roles. I wanted bigger responsibilities. And I give that advice a lot. Like when you've been at somewhere for a few years and the company's gone through a few different stages, and you're like, I'm bored here. It's okay to go to a different role, which is I think counter to what was being told to people at the time and even now. I don't think you need to stick around at a startup for years and years and years to prove your value.
For sure. I think I have like so much. Should I put on my headphones? Sorry. Like, just give me 1 second. I'm
I can
sorry.
hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, okay, perfect. Okay, so I wonder, so like I think like one of the things that I heard from your previous like podcast was like
Yeah.
I think you're such a great community builder. So you have like a lot of insights in like exactly what I'm doing right now. I feel like to build the developer community, it's like such an achievement for like what you have accomplished. Like
Yeah.
as like in when you leave a job, the last job you did before working in venture was like at GitHub. Maybe we could talk about like building. So like now, like you're an investor. So like, what are some like um great ways to build community? If you're building something from scratch, like what would that kind of like look like? Because
Yeah, yeah, that's a great question, and one I did not realize that my operating career would apply so much to my venture career. Building community around a developer, I only invest in developer technical products. So for me, my audience, when I was selling as an operator and marketing as an operator, I'm investing in those same people. So I'm lucky that it's the same community. But what I didn't realize,
I have one more question
yeah,
before we dive in. It's like your background is like in biomedical engineering.
sure, yeah.
Maybe we could talk about like, how do you even like get technical? Because and how technical do you have to get to like build a community and the marketing funnel for these like
Yeah,
very technical products? So for
totally.
you, I feel like Twilio, like parts, like those are like hardcore stuff. Like,
To
you
me,
know,
those are easy. I'm like, I understand this. So I've been a nerd. I mean, since I was a kid, I'm still a nerd, but I started coding when I was 12. So I think just because I'm from a very small town and there's nothing to do except for like, you know, farm and that's pretty much it. And so I had a computer when I was young, started on really weird chat rooms all the time, which now parents would be like, absolutely not. But yeah, I just started coding super early. So I was always extremely technical. And then when I went to college, I mean, I always wanted to be a doctor like that. Since I was a kid, I was like, I want to be a doctor. I want to be a doctor. But I hate school. So, those two things are kind of, you have to like school to be a doctor, and I hate studying and I'm not good at that kind of stuff. So I ended up just always being in, even at Georgia Tech, like I was always in, like, at the time we had tweet ups, which was Twitter, early Twitter, like little meetups in small cities.
I love that.
And that was what we did. We would talk about technology and, obsessively read early tech blogs and things like that. So I've always been, quote unquote technical. Should I be building a product? No. Like I'll figure it out, but it won't work. It won't work well. And some of my friends are the best engineers I know, and they could build something in, an hour that will take me 12 hours. So that's just not where I should be. But I think what's interesting about biomedical engineering is that you get the best parts of computer science, electrical engineering, and bio all kind of blended together. So you still get a ton of CS courses. And so the first year or two, you're in the early CS courses with all the CS majors. So you still get the basics. And then because I went straight into Twilio and Parse and everything has been technical, I had to talk to engineers every single day, right? Like it wasn't just our customers, it was also like the rest of my team. And so I had to keep up with everything. But you know, if there's sometimes I talked to a founder today where they're explaining what they're building, and I was like, I'm gonna go have to Google this. Like I do not understand what you're talking about. But what I realized is that like really great engineers also Google answers to questions. Like they don't just all of a sudden know the answer to everything. They have to Google it, or and now we, you know, can use AI to autocomplete things. But you know, I'm technical enough. I understand the space deeply, so I understand how things fit together. I don't know everything, but the fun part about the role and being a VC and what I do is I get to learn new stuff every day. And yeah, I'm technically non-technical, but know my way around computers.
I have a question. So like when you
Yeah.
learn about these like terms, do you have to like build stuff yourself, or like would you be like reading like Reddit stuff, or like what's the whole vibe?
All. So like I'm pretty hands-on. Like I need to be able to use something or at least understand where it fits into the stack. And then, you know, bless my friends, I will text a group of people that I've, you know, been close to for 20 years and say, hey, what does this matter? Does this make sense? Will you talk to this founder? Explain this to me. I've got one really good friend that will send me like 8-minute long voice notes, which I adore. He'll like talk to a founder and I'll be like, just like break this down for me a bit more on how you would use this and like X, Y, and Z. And so he'll send me these like great long voice notes that kind of breaks it down even more. Because sometimes, you know, one of the problems with building for a technical audience is sometimes a founder is so technical they can't explain what they're building to a, you know, who they're selling to, and like that's a big problem. And so if I can't understand it, that means that usually the person they're selling to can't understand it, and so we have to figure out how to explain what the thing is, what the product is within like one line or two lines. But you know, most of my friends are engineers, and so I've used that to help me do a lot of diligence. And when I am just completely and totally confused about something, I'm not shy about saying, hey, I don't know what this is, please talk to me through this. And like, is this a real thing? Does this matter? And I've got a few friends who are extremely cynical and will be like, this is not a real thing. Like, okay. So I'll go chat with someone that I'm like, that's a bit more like believes in the future of tech a bit more, and they'll break it down for me. But yeah, I generally can understand most things. I understand how they fit into the ecosystem, and from an architecture standpoint, sometimes someone will confuse me and I'm like, I don't know what this is.
I am so impressed by like the selection of company that you have went into too. So like Twilio was founded 2 year before you joined the company, and then it IPO'd after like 6 years or whatever. Like
Yeah.
and then you joined the Parse that which got acquired by like Facebook, and then later on you joined like GitLab, GitHub, all that like, and then now it's like obviously those are like giants now, and like
Yeah.
I'm sure it was like very popular back then. I'm like yeah, I'm pretty sure because like I have like the first time I encountered GitHub was like maybe 2013 or something,
Yeah.
2014. And it was like already really popular. Maybe we could talk about like the journey of like selecting the company to join as well, because as like a bow engineer, like I know that like I highlight that, but as like I also like don't have like a CS degree or anything, but like I feel
Yeah.
like to pick the right thing to join is like also a skill.
Oh man, I don't like to spin this in a way where I'm like, I knew what I was doing. Like I didn't stumble into it, but you know, I was fortunate that my first job at startups was at Twilio, and Twilio is like, you've got Jeff Lawson, who's one of the best CEOs in the world, right? Like that man is a great leader. He understands product deeply. He cares so much about his customers. We were growing quickly, and so my only model of startups was like that. And so in my mind, if it didn't look like that, it wasn't good. And so I think you just see me do that throughout my career. And so Parse, right? We've got, Ilya, Kevin, and James, incredible founders, incredible product vision. Product space made sense. We had a ton of buzz coming out of YC. The acquisition happened like 10 months into my time there. So, I continued to work on Parse at Facebook. And also work on some Facebook stuff. And then you look at GitLab, you look at Sid, from GitLab, who I think in my first meeting with him was like, we're going to IPO on this date, and here's how we're going to do it. And you're like, oh my God, calm down. But he was right. And so I've just always worked at companies and for people that in my operating career were excellent. And so I think that was the model I understood. And I didn't know anything else. And so it wasn't like I was, making strategic moves where I was like, okay, I'm going to spend this many years at this company and then I'm going to move to a different company to get this role. It was more, oh, this looks great. This has some buzz. I think this is an interesting founder. I think this is an interesting space. Let's try it out. Right. And so I kind of live that way versus it being very, very planned out. And it translates into an investing career because then I go look for founders that look like that, building companies that look like that. And so, the goal would be to have a lot of companies in each portfolio that look a lot like the Twilios, Parses, and GitLabs and GitHubs to some extent.
I love that. I wonder, so speaking of like, I think like one of my questions for you is like when I was like listening to these podcasts was like, how do you convert that into pipeline for investing? Because I think so there's two things that I found kind of like I'm happy to hear about was like a little bit surprising. Is like you say you're an introvert and then like obviously like we met at the event, but like before that
I was hiding from people. You were like, hello.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, hi.
No, we brought over the stickers. Honestly, low-key was the stickers for me. So and then but I think like but I heard about you before that. Like, I mean, I was like, I feel like one thing I thought was like, honestly, I think introverts makes better marketer because like I think marketing needs a lot of insights. A lot of it's like listening instead of like just like yapping. Yeah. And I feel like introverts like does such a better job at like observing stuff than like just yapping. Maybe we could talk about like, how does that convert into like pipeline from like, you developer experience at like as a, global vice president of marketing before jumping into like OpenView or before you build your own fund? Like, how do you kind of like funnelize a bunch of great developers, like who actually have the capacity to become like a generational founder? Yeah. And then the other part is like, how do you marketing your own fund? Because I'm so curious, like, what is Vermilion Cliffs?
Yeah, who knows?
Vermilion Cliffs? And then
yeah. So I'll answer the first part. What's interesting about people building technical companies that are engineers is most of them are also introverts. Mm-hmm. And so we kind of have that in common, usually. Not always. Sometimes you find that founder that is like excited about talking in front of public and very extroverted, and that's fine. But a lot of the founders I work with are also introverted. Like, I can talk to people. It's not like I always hide in the corner, but I do like hiding in corners. And I do prefer a lot of alone time versus like constant events. So, however, I do think that because I think founders, when we chat, they realize I say this with love. A lot of people that work in this industry that are my friends are very extroverted. I'm thinking of one person who's like really good at her job, but she can go to events for like 20 days in a row and not be tired. I think they recognize that we have common ground there, and that gets them excited. So from like a pipeline standpoint, like all my pipeline is coming from the founders in the portfolio, people I've worked with that's friend or their old colleague or something is starting a company. And so it's been really interesting since I announced the fund a year ago. Like the inbound has been pretty incredible, and I'm seeing stuff earlier and earlier, which in venture, as you know, is what you want. If you're an early stage investor, like I want to be the first person there. And so that's happening more and more. And because I'm so specialized in, very like technical founders building technical products, like that's what everyone knows me for. Is what I'm getting sent really early. So my last deal in Fund 1 was actually an old colleague of mine at Parse, which is fantastic. And then my first deal into Fund 2 is an old colleague of mine from GitHub. So it's just, that the network is networking. Mm-hmm. I do like to yap, obviously, but I don't spend a lot of my time at like dinners or, these events where you're going to network. Like, you're not going to see me there. Most of my networking happens online. which has been the case since I was a kid. So like this is
Yeah,
just my entire. I've
so
been doing the same thing for forever.
I I have a question for you. So,
Yeah.
are you a code call lady, or are you are you a code message person, or are you like a let me find someone to intro me to that person?
Uh, I'll cold message in just because I'm not shy. Like I think that's the caveat between like me saying I'm introverted is like I'm very not shy. Like I'll walk up to someone in public and be like, "Hi, I like your shirt," or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'll reach out to someone directly, no problem, and just say like, "Hey, I heard from so and so that you're building X. Like, here's my background. Would love to chat. I have a fund." And luckily, because of my background, they'll usually take the meeting. Um, so yeah. But lately, as things shift, as your fund, gets more brand awareness and blah blah blah, like a lot of it's coming a lot of inbound, like high quality inbound, which is great. And I'm having to get much better at before taking a meeting, taking a look and making sure it actually makes sense. Cause I don't, this, in the same way that I don't want to waste their time, they don't want to waste mine. Right. So I try to be pretty good about before I take a meeting, actually like reading the materials. Not always, I get busy, but yeah. And what was the second part of your question? It was a good one.
Okay, marketing the fund. So one is
Marketing the fund. Oh God.
second is like marketing the fund.
It's really easy to market someone else's product. Like I can do that with my eyes closed, but when you're marketing yourself, it is terrifying. Like it is pretty scary. And so I don't know if you follow much of Beezer Clarkson at Sapphire. She has some really good. I love her. I think she's one of my favorite people. But she, whenever they were originally looking at Fund One, she was like, "You do not have social media, and you are not online." And I'm like, "I'm very online. I'm just not online in a way that people can tell that I'm online."
Yeah. I think she's the first LP that does like branding herself.
She's incredible at it, and so I aspire. She also is like pretty extroverted. Like I can watch her at an event. I'm like, how are you still talking? I'm so impressed by you. But she and Laura at Sapphire both were like, you have to start talking about yourself. And I knew that. Like I've built go to market at all these places. Like I knew that, but I didn't realize how important it would be until I really got into it. And so, we have plan is the wrong word. I have an entire idea of what go to market for the fund looks like. And, I have to post on LinkedIn. I do have to go to certain events. I throw a bunch of events. Like, so I do a whole Tiki series, which has been incredible. But a lot of my stuff is one-on-one.
Tiki, like
Tiki, like bar. Like I
love Tiki bar.
Oh my
Like,
God. I did a big tiki thing in San Francisco with Tim Chen from Essence like 2 months, 2 months ago. It's like my fourth one. I did it wasn't tiki, it was more like basement lounge thing in New York last month with the key card team around AI Engineer Summit. So like events really work right now. I think people miss human connection. And so I've noticed even just for developer events as well as a lot of venture events, like they're fun again, which is great. But there's a whole mechanism in the background happening where I actually have to do like go to market for the fund. And so it's not just building go to market for the companies that I've invested in and helping them with that. It's also marketing myself, and which is, I am the fund because I'm a solo GP. That was a surprise.
For that. So I think you are such a what does your system kind of look like? I think the major problem of these one-off events is like, I mean, I feel like event accidentally become like my thing these days.
Yeah.
After as was like, we've done like 18 dinners, and then we're doing something tomorrow if you're in the city. I mean, but obviously like, next time.
Yeah.
But so like we've done 18 dinners and 2 conferences this year.
Cool.
And like I feel like the major problem is like, how do you kind of like funnelize that into a like pipeline itself? I feel like a lot of it's like vibe stuff, like, you
Yeah.
kind of one off, but it's really hard to like actually creating a funnel towards it, because for the community thing, like you said on this other podcast, was like, you can't treat it like a product. Like you can't try to profit off it. It's kind of it has to be organic. Then like it is like, if you're expecting too much, it's kind of like a relationship, right? Like if you're expecting so much at the beginning, it's like it's gonna fail. Like, but if you're going in with a mind, like it may like when you're like kind of like not that serious or like not that like particular about a particular outcome, it's like a lot easier for you to like see something that you won't see. But I'm just curious, like I think it's like because it's such a delicate thing, it's like, you know, when do you really sell and then when do you like kind of like diligence, like how does that kind of like how do you business ties like things that you would do from like marketing to
Yeah, great question. So it reminds me of back like 10 years ago when big enterprises were realizing that community could drive revenue. And I was getting all these calls being like, hey, can you come build community for
even
AT&T?
now? Yeah,
Even now it's like a thing. And I'm like, that's not what I do. Like that's not what I can do. I think for me, so I'm excited for your dinner tomorrow night. I'm very bad at dinners because it's my nightmare. Like sit me in one place next to the same two people for a few hours and I'm just like, I can't. It's just not for me. However, they're great. People should do them. I'm gonna have to do some of them, right? But I like dinners for me don't work because I find I always get put beside people that like aren't actually relevant. So
the wrong guy.
yeah, and then if people like are like, okay, we're switching it up, like then that gets weird. So it's just there's always some weird dynamic. But you know, I can name 20 dinners I've been to where they sit me next to the exact wrong person, and I'm like, I'm gonna rip my eyeballs out to get away from this conversation.
Oh my god! I hope you feel that.
And so like dinners don't work for me, but they work for other people. I really like, you know, I don't even really drink. So like when I say I like tiki bars and like bars with weird themes and like it's just part of my personality. Like you could see my apartment. It's full of weird art and like, you know, trains and dumb shit that I like. And so I think I just bring that through in all my marketing for the fund. And so that kind of ties back to your question about what is Vermilion Cliffs. I'll tell you in a minute. But I like, you know, tiki events where we bring a lot of people into the same room where you can like move around and giggle and have a good time and it's like low stakes and you just enjoy yourself. I think that people want to have fun right now. Like I think we took the fun out of a lot of things. And I think that I like to add it back. So those work really well for me. I do enjoy podcasts. I like the one-on-one conversations, especially when like, you know, it's like you and you know a little bit about me and can ask me questions for real. Like I don't mind this kind of stuff. I like going to the big events. This is true of VC events and developer events. I think what's more impressive around those, and I tell all my founders this, is like throw your own event as an auxiliary event around it so that you know, have your brand recognition tied to it in some way.
Question on that.
Yeah.
So my thought on like throwing throwing the small event around the big events is like I did something in New York Tech Week and that I was like swear that I would never do like the SF Tech Week stuff because it's like I mean we do a lot of stuff but like I was like Tech Week is like wow okay, you buy attention with like 1,000 different things that are like equally funded and like and then also you're getting all the tourists. It's like not the actual builders. Like they won't go to like 5 breakfasts in a row, like to bar hop.
I'm not going to any breakfast, but I hear you. Like I won't go to a breakfast. So I think what's interesting is we did the SF Tech Week thing on accident. It was OpenAI Dev Day when I saw you that Monday. Tuesday was Andreessen's speedrunner thing. And so Wednesday night is when I did the Tiki thing. Did not realize it was also SF Tech Week. And so what ended up happening is like everyone was in town, as you know. And we, you know, I hate a guest list because I feel bad telling people no, but we like just didn't have the capacity. Like I didn't plan for that many people to be in town. And so our list was pretty curated in a way that it was the builders. It was either the like builders, the founders in the portfolio. It was the VCs that were backing either early stage or later stage companies that were, you know, technical.
Like, yeah.
And it was just like friends of mine that I've worked with 100 times. Like it was just a really good group. And that's been the case for kind of all the events I've done. And, you know, that turns into great conversations and these people meet each other and now they're working together, or like it's deal flow, or it's like the next follow-on investor from some company, or I invest in the company. And so I think that just really works. For me, I will say it is extremely stressful to throw an event the week of another giant event and be competitive with other ones. But you've seen this. People are going to like 4 events in a night in San Francisco. I don't know how they do it. Like I went to 2 the other night and I was like, all right, I'm good. I'm going home.
Like,
I'm happy.
that's
But people go to a lot of different events now. And so it's okay to overschedule. Just know that people are going to come for an hour and not the 3 hours. And so you can kind of adjust your capacity for that, knowing that they're going to be moving around.
how do you promote that thing across other stuff? Like, I think the problem is like it's getting so crowded that week.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing something. I'm sure like people are going to everything, but because people are like feeling like festive and like, but the problem is like, let's say like because JP Morgan Health is coming in January. I don't know if you will be here. I don't know if healthcare is gonna be your thing because I know that you do dev too and stuff.
Yeah,
But like,
I don't look at health, but like, you know, a lot of my friends do.
but how would you kind of like throw something around that, and then how do you capture the result of it? I think the major problem is like sometimes like I feel like as a small angel investor myself, I feel like a lot of times I'm like, oh, if I talk to them, it's like a random selection, not like the pipeline approach, right? If you're running an actual fund, like I think that's very different because you have to see, like you have to like literally evaluating every opportunity.
Yeah, it's deal attribution. I mean, it's traditional deal attribution. However, it's manual, which is crazy to say because like nothing is manual anymore. But for me, I'll say, okay, I just did an investment. I'm thinking of the company. I heard about them from a conversation that I had at the event that I had in New York a few weeks ago. And so if we walk it back, the attribution there is that event, right? And so it's manual. And it's true for a lot of, you know, people on sales teams. Like they're going to go to, you know, reInvent, right? And they're going to have 50 conversations and maybe 2 of those convert. And when the marketing team says, hey, where did you get this lead from? They're going to be like, well, I met them at AWS reInvent. And so it's a manual thing. What we used to do is we would get a list together. This is every company I've worked at. We would get the list of within the CRM, whatever we were using at the time, of, okay, we had a either new person we met with, or it was a touch, right? We like interacted with them at this place and it would go into the CRM. So you could actually see which events were actually converting. And then next year we'd go look and say like, did this event, you know, matter? And then we'd go ask for the like actual evidence from the sales team, dev team, like, did this matter? And someone would be like, yeah, we actually closed JP Morgan out of that or whatever. And I'm like, okay, great. We're going to do this event way bigger next year. And so there are ways to track it. I think it's not as cut and dry as, you know, pay-per-click, right? Like I'm not going to be able to say like, we spent 5 cents and got 3 clicks and those 3 clicks, it just isn't the same, but you have to do a lot more manual work.
For sure. You're saying so it's like manually tracking, right? Like you are gonna call them and be like, hey, like you close this guy where and what. And like I think the problem is like also the metrics is like so hard. It's like you may hear about like, especially for founders, like you have to hear of them. Like sometimes when I hear about like the same guy, like I met them like 3 times at like different things in 1 week. Yeah. So I feel like that's like a very high signal thing than like if you're like you heard about this guy once and then you're like evaluating, right? But like I guess the problem is like the other part is like, do you have like an internal system for you to like CRM this thing or like just because I feel like the logging in problem is like I want to die if I like have to like open my Excel sheet and like update like every interaction that
I'm not great at it, but Clarify is in the portfolio, and Clarify, the CRM, is really good at telling me what I should be following up on. And so I've gotten really good at updating it. But a lot of it, because I'm, you know, solo GP, right? A lot is in my head and my email. And so I'm working to build a better system around it. And as Clarify becomes an even better CRM through product launches, and you know everyone has the same problems. I'm not unique to this problem set, I do think that it's starting to get solved more, but like even back in the days of early Salesforce, or I had to do marketing ops because I was the only go-to-market person forever.
Mhm.
Like I just would build tags, and so you would tag the contact as like South by Southwest 2012 or like Salesforce whatever Dreamforce. Like so it's you just have to put it down. I think something that's helpful also is when I leave an event, I take a lot of notes. And so, I don't, iPhone notes app, open it up, type in a bunch of things of what you're actually like your 5 favorite conversations, your 10 favorite conversations, or who you should follow up with. Go to sleep, wake up the next day, and be like, okay, I should put that into somewhere that matters. And that helps me a lot because I my memory is not great. So if in that same day or same night I actually take notes, or I'll take notes when I'm talking to someone, like I don't have shame there. I'll just, if someone's talking, I'm like, let me write this down because I'm gonna forget. And so that's been pretty useful for me. But a lot of it is manual.
Mm. I want to say hi to Larry from Facebook. I know, like, I'm like streaming into like 6 different platforms, like
Are you
Facebook,
really?
YouTube, X, and Instagram. Like
Yeah.
normally it's just like LinkedIn, Twitter people, or like LinkedIn and like YouTube people comes.
Mm.
But like today, it's like the Facebook. Like Larry, you're awesome. I just want to say, like, he likes the stuff. I'm like, oh my god, I love
All
that.
I can see is you, and so in my mind, I'm only talking to you. But
Oh yeah,
hello.
that's how I feel too about you.
Yeah, yeah. Hello, everyone else.
Yeah.
But in my world, it's just Grace.
I love that. I wonder, so like maybe we can talk about the fundraising as well. So I think the first time I heard about you is like someone said great things about you fundraise and stuff and like start successfully starting your own fund, right? So like since like I think it probably take you 2 to 3 years based on like LinkedIn that like you kind of like successfully raise the funds, start deploying maybe like 2 years or so. That's like actually really fast for like fund one. And like I don't know like what was your kind of like journey like to raise the fund stuff and then like what were the stuff that like people I think like for the fun thing is like I think like the whole thing is like every LP have a different opinion about everything and then like
Yeah, they do.
how you like go left and the other person could tell you to go right at the same time. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what like even if it's just like the font deck or something, you kind of get like so many opinions. I'm like, oh my god, it's just a lot.
You get a lot of feedback, and I tell founders this, like, I tell this before I give feedback. Like, I'm not in it every day. This is just my opinion. Ignore it. I don't care.
Mhm.
I'm fortunate. So, Fund One was a weird fundraise because I wasn't fully sure what I was doing. I didn't know what a fund model was. I had never built a fund before. So, there was so much learning that had to happen. And so I raised a tiny amount from a few people in tech that were just like trusting of me. Uh, and then I got very, very good advice from Satya Patel from Homebrew, who also has Screen Door.
Mhm.
I just reached out to him one day. We've known each other from just being in the same circles for a long time. And I reached out and was like, hey, I'm thinking about building a fund. Can I ask you questions? And he sat me down for like 90 minutes and just interviewed me with the best questions you could possibly ask. I'm like, these are the questions I have to know the answer to, but I don't know the answer to them. And then that threw me into the Screen Door fund to fund process, which is an anchor check. It's a big check.
Mhm.
And then at that point, I think I was saying I was raising 10 million for Fund One and pre-seed seed dev data infra security. So none of that's changed. And then shortly thereafter, like within a week, Sapphire started looking, and so that was Beezer and Laura. Laura took the lead, and I think
LPs though, like I just want to say, they're like the
they
emerging.
are incredible. Like if I could sit and talk to you for hours about why, like, Lisa, Hunter, Satya, Lane, and Jamie at Screen Door, and then Beezer, Laura, and that entire team at Sapphire have been the best, most supportive LPs you could possibly dream of. And so I think the minute they threw their money in, it was already real, but like that was most of the fund. And yeah, it wasn't easy. I mean, like I had an LP commit and then not raise their fund, right? And so then I had to go backfill that money, which was a nightmare because it happened like as I was closing, and I was like, wait, what? I thought I was done. And so, yeah, like I did a 2.5 year cycle on fund one. Fund one was 13.2 or something. I don't know. Like it wasn't a strategic, like I raised 13 million because I like Taylor Swift. It was, everyone keeps asking me that question. I'm like, sure. You know what? Okay. No, it was 13 because if you look at the math, like if I want to do 2% ownership for pre-seed and seed dev data, like with what the evaluations are, like that's what made sense. And we deployed the whole thing.
I think the thing is like, I have to calculate this. Like today, if you're raising a $10 million fund, you're investing in like 40 companies, like 250K each.
We did 35, yeah. And I did not do reserves in fund one.
Yes, 350.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. So like, and then like 2% ownership. Like I feel like even today it's kind of aggressive if you're like thinking the asset landscape, because every company is like valuation cap is like 40 mil. Like
valuation's going crazy. And so that's part of why for fund two I went up. I increased my check size. I decreased number of deals. So I'm doing 25 deals. I'm doing 25 deals, 25 million hard cap, and valuations are going up. And I say that in every single one of my investor updates. It's like, even if I just did the exact same thing over, I'd still have to raise a little bit more money.
So when you do like 350K, that's like 40 company or like what?
No, so you got to think that like 20% of what you raise is going to fees, right? So like my little salary, which people think it's full salary, like you're also paying for all the expenses of the fund. So all these events that I'm throwing are coming out of that, and people are like, "Oh, you should be making tons of money," and I'm like, "Oh, I'm not really, but I'll make money on carry. I don't care." And so you got to think 20% of the total you raise is going towards your fees. 10-20% is going to like fund expenses. It's like 10%. So like you actually are only deploying about 70% of the capital. And that's assuming you don't have a follow-on strategy. So first check-in for me is like the only check I'm doing out of fund one. Fund two also don't have a follow-on strategy. I'm doing one check-in and we'll go. There'll probably be one or two companies where I'm like, oh, I got a capital return. I'm going to go put more money into that company. Because we can recycle up to a certain percentage. And I didn't know this until I learned it a few years ago, but if you recycle, it helps against your IRR because you're deploying the full 100% of what you raised, and it takes care of that 20% of the fee that you're paying yourself plus all the fund expenses.
Your fund one was 20 company only?
No, fund one's 35.
No. I mean, like, it's 35 company. Okay,
yeah,
I thought
yeah.
it was 350K. Okay,
so no. Fund one is 35 companies.
That's like old.
No.
I think
No. I'm afraid of concentration. No, fund one is 35 companies. Fund two is 25, maybe 30. Like, well, you make a model, and a model is just that. You can't stick to it directly all the time. And so sometimes you'll see a deal a tiny bit late and your allocation is smaller. Sometimes you'll get there as the first person because you know the person and it's their second company. And you're like, you know what, I'm going to write a bigger check here. And so, it's modeled that fund one will be 25, or fund two, sorry, will be 25 companies. It's modeled that fund one was going to be 35 companies, and it was, but the check sizes generally are 2% ownership.
Oh my God, sorry, I'm using someone else's office and then someone else is calling this room. Like, oh.
They're like, ma'am, get out.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, I hope you hung up, man. Like, just hung up, okay? I'm sorry.
No, you're fine.
It's like threatening me. Oh, it's gone. It's gone. Okay, sorry.
They're gonna call right back and be like, hello.
Yeah, that's why I was like, should I use a headphones? Audience space, or like, what the fuck is happening?
Yeah. It'll be fine.
I feel like my friends are gonna like kick me out of this room soon because I feel like my it's just like I'm so loud. But okay, yeah, we're fine. I wonder, so like I feel like what was like the most unexpected thing? I like that you just like applied lipstick. I was like, I want to do that, but
do what you want whenever you want it. There's my pro tip in life.
I love that. I have a question for like, I guess like when you were like fundraising, what were I would call it like 3 things that you feel like, or like maybe just like one piece of insight that you feel like it was like a very unconventional or like something that you've never.
Oh God, it's just weird. No process is the same. Everyone has a different process. People are going to ghost you and then pop back up 5 months later and be like, oh yeah, are you ready to close? And I'm like, sorry, already closed. it's like sales, right? Like all good LPs will make you think they're committing until they pass. And so I think it gives you a false sense of like, oh, okay, great. Like I got that one. And so it's just something to remember that someone can get all the way to the end and then pass. And so don't count. I mean, this is with everything in life. Like don't count the money until it's in the bank. Because LPs can fall out or LPs can pass for some reason or they can change strategy and stop doing venture, like whatever it is, especially in this market. So don't count money until it's in the bank. I think that the common thread is know who you are. And I think like I have a pretty clear sense of who I am and the type of people that want to back me. And so I can go into a meeting on the first call and I can tell if someone would even consider putting money into a fund like mine, right? Because I'm not like
Such a great point that I have like 5 questions about. I'm
yeah.
sorry, I like interrupt you,
No,
but
you interrupt me. My brain works the same way. Go ahead.
my brain's like this big. So like if I don't interrupt you, like
That's not true.
no,
Your brain, you are big brained and you have I do the same thing when I'm talking to somebody. Like I have 15 questions. Can I please just ask you now? So like go ahead.
I'm dying to do. Like I feel like the thing is like, okay, what's the inside of like people backing the like so like there's like I would say there's like 3 called like archetype people back like the first fund, right? It's like your LPs that are like actually the professional, like successful, like the homebrew people, they're like successful, they did like their own like stuff. I mean, I heard like this is like a rumor. I don't know if it's true, but like I feel like I heard that like they were like backing out of their own cash or something for their own fund for a little bit, or like I don't know, like if that's like
Probably. You know what? Who knows? I don't ask where money comes from. I'm just kidding. I think that I think we should talk to them, but I think that they had a bunch of really great people that LP'd, including themselves, that they believed strongly in the managers they back. They still do. They're a great firm.
So there's like the professional LPs, and then there's like the family office, and then there's like the wealthy individuals. So like I think like the family office is like a black box. It's like
who knows? Yeah, you don't know if you're talking to like the third generation rich person who's in charge of like managing billions of dollars, or if they've hired someone who is managing all their money. You don't even know if the family cares, if they have a vote or not. Or, like, multi-family office, like there's no one rule with family offices, and I think anyone that goes in trying to apply the same thinking to every single family, they're all different. They all have different industries. All their money comes from different places. They all have different allocation needs, and some of them, their fund manager, their like LP person managing their money does not even have to get approval, and that's great. Some of them have to run it by like 20 members of the family and explain like AI to people who have no idea what you're talking about. So there's just like everything in between. Family offices are a total. You go to every single one with a different approach.
I think the problem, and then the third one is like basically like your mentor friends and like friend of friend or like mentors or something, or like just like literally like wealthy individual that you could cold call or whatever. But like I think, but like having the insight of like why they're backing you is like really important. And like I feel like for the individual, it's like easier to know, or like maybe they're a fund manager, they just want deal flow or whatever. But like but like for the family, I was like, you have no deadline for them. Like how can you like make sure that they invest at the timeline that you need? Because it's like you can tell them that you're first close on this day, but like if no one comes in, like how do you kind of like keep pushing that? And then they will be like, oh my god, you said you were gonna close on this day, and then you didn't close, and you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's a lot like this is whatever. I grew up fishing, and it's a lot like fishing. Like if the fish aren't biting, go somewhere else. Like you're not going to make them give you money. And so I think that I know I'm like, you know what? They're not into it. It's fine. I'm not going to bother them. Flip side of that is I'm not great at follow up. So if someone is not going to follow up with me, I'm getting better at it, but I need to, I'm not going to go beg someone for money. Right. And so I think that the minute anyone smells desperation, also true of fish, the minute anyone smells desperation, like they're just going to like, no. And so I think that's something that a lot of both founders and fund managers have to learn the hard way. And that's true of life. I went heavily institutional. Like fund 1 is mostly institutional capital. Fund a little bit of family office. Fund 2 is primarily institutional, only a few LPs, which is great because I know that my LPs are like, you know, they want their money back, right? Times 10. And I'm going to give them that. But they're also great. Like, I'm pretty lucky that like everyone that has backed me is someone that I can text and be like, hey, what are you doing? Like, let's go hang out and like go for a drink or something. Like, I really, really, really do love my LPs. And it sets a good model for the kind of fund manager I want to be with my portfolio. Like, I want to be there for my founders in the same way that my LPs are there for me, because I think it just builds a better friendship. But yeah, like, there's no way to raise a fund. It is very hard. Diligence processes go from 1 week to 6 months, sometimes a year. There's no right answers to questions. You can answer all the questions right and have all the right numbers, and they'll still pass on you because they have, you know, exposure elsewhere to the exact same portfolio. It's a weird game. It's a very weird game. And it makes you very empathetic to founders raising money when you've had to fundraise your own capital.
I have a question on your track record before this, right? So like you were a venture partner at OpenView. Maybe we could talk about, like, do you have like 40 portfolio or like angel checks put in?
No, I got like 20 angel checks. I think the 2 outliers there, Graphite, based out of New York, which I love that team.
They were on our like Smart AI 100 list.
Yeah, they're fantastic. I love that team. They have been incredible friends, and they're great. And I think what they're building is super interesting. And then Radar, also a New York-based company, was actually my first angel check ever. You know, but there's others that are doing quite well as well. But like from early stage standpoint, those are 2 early ones that are doing well. Clark is doing really well. Strappy's doing well. There's a few in there. And then, you know, at OpenView, I was just a venture partner, so you don't own the deal, so to speak, right? Like it's different. But when I was there, I worked on I was on the board of BuildKite, which is a CI/CD tool out of Australia, which I love that company.
I have another question for you. So like,
oh yeah,
so back in time when you were doing an angel check, assuming you're not doing like $1 million check everywhere, right? Like,
no.
So like, how?
10K, 25K, you know.
What if like the LPs are like, oh, okay, so you can put in a small check, but can you put in a big check?
Yeah.
I'm sure like that's kind of like a question.
It's definitely a question you get. It's why starting small was helpful for me, because I could say, okay, let's see if I can get 250, right? Let's see if I can get 500. And then the step up from 13 million to 25 million is like, okay, can I put in 500 to $1 million? Great. And like the answer is yes. And some people can go straight to $100 million, $500 million fund, whatever. But a lot of those are spin outs coming out of big organizations or big funds where they've been doing this for a while. I was much more comfortable starting small. I don't want to stress myself out to the point where I'm just like, I have to deploy this capital. I'm going to go write money. I'm going to give someone $2 million. Like, that's not a great way to deploy a fund. So I would rather be in the best deals and the best founders at smaller check size than go and raise, 200 million if I haven't done that before. The downside is that like the fees don't pay you. So you just, you're working for free for a little bit, but it's part of it.
I wonder, okay, so maybe we can talk about like Vermilion Cliffs.
Yeah.
What's Vermilion Cliffs?
Vermilion Cliffs. So I'm pretty outdoorsy. I'm indoorsy and outdoorsy, but I like to off-road with big trucks. And
off-road, like literally driving trucks?
Like big tires on trucks where you go drive into the desert and can stay in the desert for days because you have like a Starlink and I'm very outdoorsy. And so actually Southern Utah.
I thought you were like, oh, I like camping and like hiking.
I don't really like camping. Like, I'm more of this, like I'll sleep in my truck, but I'm not going to sleep outside. And I think that's just like being a woman in the woods is scary. But I'm really good at like off-roading all day and then going find like a weird hotel and sleeping there. But one of my favorite places in the world is Southern Utah, Arizona, that whole area, like north rim of the Grand Canyon. And so there's a national monument down there called the Vermilion Cliffs National Monument that if you've ever,
I may have been there when I was like,
if you've hiked, it's called the Wave. There's a bunch of other like really beautiful formations. It's one of my favorite places to hike because you have to get a permit, and the only way you can get a permit is if you're physically in this little town called Kanab, Utah. and only 10 people get a permit a day. And so you just like sit there and you try to apply for the permit and you can get it and then go off-road all back in there. The upside is like if you don't get the permit, you can go hike in Zion or Bryce or the North Rim of the Grand Canyon if they can rebuild the fire damage. So like I like Vermilion Cliffs. I like the area. I like the color. I like the imagery. There's lots of dinosaur bones, which I'm a nerd, so that makes me happy. There's lots of like just very, very interesting rock formations. And so from a branding perspective, I was just like, you know what, let's do this. But
Yeah,
nothing deeper than that.
I mean, I love that. I feel like that's kind of like a niche itself. It's kind of like giving NFT. Like you travel somewhere and you bond with people, and then like you kind of like.
I did more than I lived there for a large part of the pandemic. So I like went and lived in the desert for a long time. And there's a world where I go do that again.
Wait, were you the kind of people who would like bring their own like water to shower and then live in their car and then like do that kind of stuff?
I'm the kind of person that went and bought a little house and lived in southern Utah. Not a big house, little tiny house, very like inexpensive, even in like our current terms of owning homes. And it was full of like my grandpa's old Jeep, my weird off-road trucks, and some dinosaur statues, and a lot of off-road equipment. So like it's
okay. I was like,
I'm not gonna camp. Like everyone else can camp. My friends will all camp. I will literally drive all the way back to home, which it can be like hours away just to sleep or to a hotel. I'll camp sometimes. I camped for the eclipse a few years ago. Like my friends like made me camp, and I did. But
love that. Okay, so I don't think it's a almost 2026 podcast without talking about AI. What are I know, right? What are some like trends that you're seeing in the space right now? And then what are some company that excites you?
Yeah. I think the trends are interesting. I think obviously it's a paradigm shift. I think in the same way we saw cloud pop up and web pop up and all these other like giant, I'm calling it base model, but like base layers change in the way we build software, look at the internet or consume information. That's what's happening with AI, with OpenAI, Anthropic, et cetera. I'm pretty impressed by a lot of the dev tools that are coming out, and they're not really dev tools anymore. It's AI Infra. Like, so I think AI Infra is taking the branding away from dev tools and DevOps. And
wait, what? So you said like dev tool is becoming infra, but I thought like they're like, I mean, I always categorize them as the same sector, but I thought they're like very drastically different as like infra.
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's a branding thing. It's not an actual like what does this product do, but most everyone I talk to, 10 years ago we would have called it a dev tool. Now we're calling it AI Infra just because it sounds better. But what it boils down to is like the way that we are interacting with data. Is it a multi-model solution? Okay, how are they interacting? How are we attributing code to? Is this a robot? Is this a human? Like, how are we securing all of this? And so there's all these like very, very interesting new ways of building software that are popping up because we have all these new models and new ways to generate code. Like there's more lines of code, there's more bugs. With more bugs, there's more problems. Okay, who's going to solve that? And so I think that there's just like a whole new world of interesting new things to build for technical users. I'm not of the camp that like AI is going to replace all developers. Like I don't think that's true, because if you talk to anyone who's actually building software using AI, like it's not really hitting production yet. Maybe one day, but not now. And so I think there's all these like orchestration layers and just really interesting parts that have to be recreated for, sounds so buzzwordy, but I don't care, but like for the AI enabled developer, like it's just I think it's going to be a different way of building software. Some companies I'm excited about, like I think that obviously like the Cursors of the world are very interesting. I think key cards in the portfolio is really interesting on the way they're thinking about agentic security. I just backed a company I can't talk about yet, but they're really doing some interesting stuff around how you actually collaborate on code with the various models. I think there's going to be an issue of like where did this come from? Like a financial institution is not going to let you deploy code if they don't know exactly where it came from. And so I think that's something very interesting. And so I get really excited about like the infrastructure layer that is on top of all of the base models, as it relates specifically to building software.
Wow. Okay. So I love that. Okay. So when you were doing, I guess like for the okay, so I was like writing down notes like for the orchestration layer. So
Yeah.
obviously, I think like there's like, our show we had the former CPO of Nextdoor. She was building like agent that's like managing other agents. So I feel like that's like what I kind of like think of like the orchestration layer. But like on the other hand, I'm like, what is like the new thing for agents like next year? Like because you can't call them like agents anymore because I feel like every year there's like a buzzword.
Yeah.
And like someone said on my show, it's like gonna be called autonomous stuff. But I don't know, like since you're like in marketing, so like
Yeah. I like autonomous. I like autonomous as a word. I think agents are interesting because there was a lot of promises made that like agents will be doing all the jobs. And I never really thought that was true. I think for me, it's more about like companies that are kind of like making models able to solve hard problems, but more about like reliability, security, and integrations and like how they're all working together. That's where I get excited. It's infra. Like it really is like AI infra / dev tool / DevOps. And so with that, you have lots of trust issues. There's lots of like governance issues that pop up. There's so many, like with every single layer, there's just like new layers of things that come out. And I think that that's where all the companies that I'll be backing are coming from. And I think, like there's going to be a lot of scary security stuff. Like there's a whole new world coming up. And I don't think that the way that we were building software, which is true of every decade, but the way we were building software 10 years ago is not the same way we're going to be building software in the next 10 years. And so there's going to be a whole series of companies that pop up because we have this entire new way of thinking about collaborating together to build products.
wow. I love that. Okay, so I want to be mindful of the time. Maybe we wrap with a quick 1 minute fire round.
Yeah. Go for it.
What's your favorite book?
Oh God. There's a lot of them. I'm gonna look behind me because that's where anything by Flannery O'Connor makes me really happy because it just reminds me of home. Yeah, let's go with that.
Who would you invite to your dinner party?
To a dinner party? No one? I'm kidding. All of my friends. We have great, beautiful dinner parties in New York. I'm like having a dinner party in a few days.
Not just be like a clickbait for like this.
myself, my computer, and some weird Netflix.
Oh, yeah, it's like me and ChatGPT alone. Yeah. Leave us alone, guys. I'm just kidding. Who made the biggest impact in your career?
God, so many people. I think in the earliest days, goddamn. I think Jeff Lawson, because Twilio modeled how I think startups should be. There's a woman named Linda Smith who was the first CMO there who like taught me enterprise marketing. Ilya at Parse was incredible to me. Sid at GitLab was incredible to me. Mackie Craven at OpenView was like, yeah, just go do some deals and was great to me. And then recently, all of my LPs they believe in me more than I believe in me some days. So get LPs that like you more than you like yourself, I think, because they will like cheer you on the whole way. It's great.
Love that. Where can we find you outside of work?
Where can we find me?
Outside of work.
Oh, in the woods, in the desert.
I was gonna say in the desert.
Yeah. Not near a computer is where I will be. Actually, I carry a Starlink and a computer with me all the time, so I'm always working. However, it'll be in the middle of nowhere.
I love that. You're living the dream, the middle of nowhere lifestyle. Well, Ashley, thank you so much for coming on the show today. It was such a fun and I'm so glad this is happening before this year end because I was like so excited when I hear about like your story and stuff.
Yeah, it was lovely to spend time with you, and hope I didn't say anything too bad.
No.
All right. Good to see you.
Me
Bye.
too. Let me quickly answer